This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Efrem Grant. We've got a lot to get to on this Monday, and we're going to begin in the Middle East, where the U.S. pounded Houthi rebel location targets over the weekend and issued warnings to Iran and Hamas. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us the story. She's reporting from Jerusalem.
Dozens of U.S. airstrikes and missile strikes on Houthi targets over the weekend in Yemen left at least 50 people dead, the rebels claim. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz says Houthi leaders are among the dead.
This was an overwhelming response that actually targeted multiple Houthi leaders and took them out.
The attacks came after the Houthis warned they're about to start hitting ships in the Red Sea and other nearby waters again. Since the start of the war in Gaza, the Houthis have disrupted global shipping and cost billions of dollars with attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea. They've also targeted U.S. warships. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Fox News.
4 months ago, when we sent a ship through, it was shot at 17 times. Ships haven't been able to go through for over a year without being shot at. Freedom of navigation is basic. It's a core national interest.
On Truth Social, President Trump declared, "No terrorist force will stop American commercial and naval vessels from freely sailing the waterways of the world." Trump also warned Iran to stop backing the Houthis, writing, "Beware, because America will hold you fully accountable, and we won't be nice about it." U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says America is doing the world a favor.
What we can't ignore, and the reason why the president mentioned Iran, is because the Iranians have supported the Houthis. They've provided them intelligence, they've provided them guidance, they've provided them weaponry.
The Iranians are defiant, claiming the U.S. and its allies are panicking in the face of Muslim nations standing together. The Houthis warned they will retaliate and claim to launch drone and ballistic missile attacks against a U.S. carrier in the region. But the Navy denies the attack and said they did not come near any U.S. ships. As for the war in Gaza, President Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, laid out a proposal for Hamas to free up to 11 more hostages in exchange for more Palestinian prisoners. But Hamas's reply has been rejected by both Israel and the U.S.
I'm not going to go into the specific details of what made it unacceptable. I think there's an opportunity for them, but the opportunity is closing fast.
Witkoff said of the terror group stalling, Hamas is making a very bad bet that time is on its side. It is not.
What happened with the Houthis yesterday, what happened with our strike ought to inform as to where we stand with regard to terrorism and our tolerance level for terrorist actions. And I would encourage Hamas to get much more sensible than how they have been.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Here at home, a powerful weekend storm across the south has killed at least 39 people. The deadly combination of tornadoes, dust storms, and wildfires also destroyed hundreds of homes and businesses. Aldale Hurd is on this story.
It was utter devastation in parts of the nation's heartland. Dozens of tornadoes over the weekend left a path of destruction across 8 states, from Missouri to Alabama.
All she could say was, "Mama, her house is gone. It's leveled, and it's leveled."
Near Mobile, Alabama, there were at least 3 dead, including Anita Owen's mother.
You wouldn't think just a wind and tornadoes would do this much devastation.
In Talladega County, Alabama, this school bus looked like a toy tossed against the side of Winterboro High School. At this RV resort in Mississippi, miraculously, no one was hurt. In Georgia, a tornado was confirmed west of Atlanta.
It sounded like a war zone.
All you heard were things flying around, hitting the side of the house, glass shattering.
In Arkansas, the National Guard was deployed after an EF3 tornado packing 165-mile-per-hour winds flattened buildings.
You can feel the pressure, hear the intensity.
The highest death toll was in Missouri, with at least a dozen lives lost.
Something hit the side of the truck. Just flipped it over and blew up.
This man had to rescue his aunt after her home was leveled.
She was trapped in that bedroom, only room standing left of this house. She was trapped in it. We got her out the window. We found a few bodies that was out in the field, a few deceased people. But it was a rough night. It was a really rough night.
Winds from the same storm even created wildfires in Oklahoma, leaving at least 4 people dead and 400 homes damaged. In Bakersfield, Missouri, townfolk have come together to help one another.
Members of the community have just been great. They've been coming in and bringing stuff all day long, and we're filling the church building up, so we're going to have it open and ready for anybody that needs something.
This man played Amazing Grace outside his home, lost to fire, vowing to rebuild. The severe weather has moved into the Northeast, with high winds and heavy rain expected across New York and New England today. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Coming up, Democrats in disarray as we are just past halfway through President Donald Trump's first 100 days. Democrats are struggling to mount an opposition. We're going to hear why their message is not resonating with some Americans and their plan to win back voters. We've got the story for you when we come back. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. President Donald Trump has relentlessly pursued his agenda since his first day in office, and the Democrats have been scrambling to adjust. CBN's chief political correspondent David Brody brings us this look at the party he says is in disarray.
We will win. We will win. We won't rest. We won't rest.
Just like this clumsy attempt at a rallying cry, Democrats have appeared uncoordinated and off track since President Trump's election victory.
The President of the United States.
And that theme continued Tuesday during the president's speech to Congress. Caught flat-footed by an election victory and calls for change, Democrats couldn't come up with a cohesive pushback strategy. Some walked out, others held protest signs, while one rudely interrupted the president's speech.
Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do.
That seems to be true. Party leaders like David Axelrod realize the Democrat disconnect is real.
The Democratic Party has, in some ways, become too much seen by too many Americans as the party of elites and institutions that have failed them. I worry that the party of working people, the self-styled party of working people, is perceived by working people as elite and
it's not for
disdainful and removed from their experience.
Polls show it's the GOP now more in sync with Americans on top issues like the economy, taxes, and immigration. That disconnect brings with it a 57% unfavorable rating for Democrats. Longtime party influencer Roland Martin, however, says, don't count them out quite yet.
People who are saying that they're in disarray, that's a level of silliness. And the reason I say that is we always see these stories after there's a loss.
But Martin does acknowledge a communication problem.
Democrats' messaging is horrible. And that is, what they've done is they've passed things, they've supported things that actually benefit the American people. They don't talk about it.
Still, the embrace of leftist ideas has hurt them with the blue-collar base.
If you're Democrats, you have to recognize where people are and now begin to say, hey, either I'm going to stand with, push that hard and suffer the consequences, or I'm going to have to somehow recalibrate.
It's left Democrat politicians with a choice in attempting a strategic comeback. Some are taking the road less traveled, like Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer trying to find common ground with the Trump administration.
I don't want to pretend we're always going to agree, but I will always seek collaboration first. I won't go looking for fights. I won't back down from them either.
Others, like Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, remain never-Trumpers, using provocative rhetoric.
The seed that grew into a dictatorship in Europe a lifetime ago didn't arrive overnight. I'm watching with a foreboding dread what is happening in our country right now.
Two different strategies, but not a true plan. That makes for a bleak future. It's projected that in the next 5 years, liberal states like California, Illinois, and New York will lose congressional seats due to a shrinking population. Conservative states like Texas and Florida are expected to pick up seats.
So you've got to have a much more aggressive Democratic National Committee. It's understanding. They have got to stop listening to these overpaid consultants and pollsters who don't understand people.
And if that isn't bad enough, the money is starting to dry up as well, with many top Democrat donors saying they are done with a party that seems out of touch with voters. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Still ahead, a child in Berlin during the final days of World War II. She survived the Nazis and escaped communists. Now she is a freedom-loving patriot living in the United States. We're going to hear her story. It's coming up right after this. This year marks 80 years since the end of World War II. A book called A Child in Berlin shares the gripping story of a young girl during the fall of Nazi Germany. Today, that young girl is 88 years old. She tells CBN's Jenna Browder how she still recalls it all in vivid detail, and that includes the final days of the war, surviving on her own in a bombed-out apartment building.
So I thought we'd just do a little family history. And then I got into it and felt like this is a really important story. And it needs to be a book.
Meet Rhonda Laritzin and Heidi Posnien. Together, they penned A Child in Berlin, the poignant story of Heidi Posnien and her mother during the fall of Germany.
And we spent 5 years collecting Heidi's oral history and letting her tell the story in bits and getting to know one another.
We talked over Zoom, they coming to me from rural Utah. That's where Heidi's story ends. It begins, though, in 1939 rural Germany, near the Polish border. Heidi was just 3 years old, living with her beloved grandmother.
I remember more of my grandmother's because I stayed with my grandmother first, and I remember the old country and the snow and the, going over to the neighbors, and those were good times.
Her mother, Keta, was a rising opera star in Berlin.
Well, that wasn't very much. It's just that she sang a lot and she practiced a lot.
Dating a Nazi officer, Keta found herself at a dinner party hosted by the Führer himself.
When Heidi told me that, we were pretty well into it. Like what? Your mother met Adolf Hitler? And of course, at the time, she was young and, Berlin was such an exciting place and she was in the middle of everything. But then she started to see what was happening.
Some 80 years later, the memories remain clear for Heidi.
I'll remember when the trucks would come down the street and I looked out the window and they were hauling people down out of the houses and putting them in the trucks. And I was asking my mother, I said, where are they all going? What's going on? My mom said, oh, they're just taking them to the workhouses. And so that's the end of it. She wouldn't tell me anything more.
Refusing to join the Nazi Communist Party, Keta felt she had no choice but to step down from the opera, rolling up her sleeves to work in a factory, and as so many did to survive, trading in the black market.
Well, those were usually dried beans, dried lentil, anything that you could store in sacks. We just pushed them underneath the bed. And then we made them into little small packages and we traded them with other people that had other things.
And that, like so many things, was risky.
When I was little, my mom would always drill me and say, now, if anybody asks you your name, what do you say? And I said, I'm going to say Heidi. She says, no, you say, I don't know.
Rhonda explains how as the war dragged on, Berlin became a city of mostly women and children. And as the war turned, it became a bombed-out hellscape, making life treacherous for anyone trying to survive. Without giving away too much of the book, Heidi finds herself alone in the final weeks of the war, living in a bombed-out apartment building. She was just 9 years old.
But I came home after a bombing one time. Everything was bombed out on both sides of our building, our apartment house. But ours was still standing, a little bit crooked, but it was still standing. And so I went up the stairs and the doors were off the hinges and windows were all out, and that great big oven that we had that was all caved in, and all the glass was in my mom's bed.
Heidi eventually married an American soldier and found her way to the United States, where she made a life for herself in Ogden, Utah. Now living in Huntsville, Utah, she tends to all of her animals like she did so many years ago with her grandmother.
I was going to sit on a track It flagged the German words keep coming in.
After surviving Nazi Germany and escaping the communist sector of East Berlin, Heidi describes herself as a freedom-loving patriot.
Every time I listen to the national anthem at a ball game or something, I still get choked up and, brings sometimes tears to my eyes that I'm so lucky that I'm here now.
Through it all, she's not jaded, her warm glow radiating through the screen. She says there's a saying she chooses to live by.
I always say, eat life, don't let life eat you.
Jenna Browder, CBN News.
And the book is called A Child in Berlin. You can find it wherever books are sold. Coming up, a man who had a radical challenge from God. Quit your job and give away your money. We're going to see how that led to a ministry that has been viewed billions of times online. We got the story for you when we come back. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Do good and change people's lives. That is Travis Settineri's goals, better known online as Travis Doodles. His simple motto has inspired millions worldwide, and it all began after God challenged him to do something radical: give all his money to those in need.
Give me a big round of applause to Travis Doodles!
Millions know him as Travis Doodles, the YouTube sensation who gives money away to those in need and urges others to do the same.
We're here for such a short time, and I want to use it to do good and change people's lives.
That is me! I like your hair.
It's so much better to be generous than to be in a scarcity mindset. That doesn't help anybody.
His real name is Travis Settineri. Back in 2021, his life was much different. At 36 years old, he was making a six-figure income as a personal videographer for a multimillionaire in Florida.
And I'm just like, this is empty, because there was no purpose behind the content other than just show everybody how rich he was. And there's nothing wrong with having money, but that doesn't fulfill me or give me any purpose. And so I was just like, man, I'm talking to my friend, and I told him, I said, if I had this guy's money, I would just give it all away. That's what makes me happy. I like helping people. And the second it left my mouth, I felt like God checked me, and he said, put your money where your mouth is. If you're not doing it now with the little you have, what makes you think you're going to do it if I give you millions? And so I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty interesting. And I thought I was going through something where I go back to my wife and I'm like, hey, I feel like I'm supposed to quit my job and give away all of our money. And I'm thinking maybe she's going to talk some sense into me. And she says, if you feel like God's calling you to do that, I got your back. I think you should do it. And I'm like, oh, no.
So Travis quit his job while his wife Amber cleaned homes for income. Dipping into savings, Travis followed God's lead and started giving money to seemingly random strangers.
And I would pray, God, lead me to the right person, and I would just try to make their day better. So it starts out just buying people gas, paying for their groceries, getting a homeless guy off the street, paying for his motel and helping him get a job, that type of thing.
I don't know, man. It's just really sad. I wasn't expecting that news. So we're going to just go get him some food so we can at least take that off his mind.
This is what I want to do the rest of my life, every day.
After a couple of months, he decided to record a video of what he was doing and put it on YouTube.
Italian sub? Forget about it. Whatever you want.
I just wanted to document what I was doing so I could look back on it and see what God was, going to do.
Subscriptions to his channel were sporadic, and by May 2022, the couple had gone through their savings. Then on June 4th, Travis posted a story about a homeless man named Bob who had cancer and had lost his job. Travis also asked viewers if they would help him get Bob and his wife off the street.
Bob's cancer is getting worse due to his living situation, and I need your help. Any amount you can give makes a difference.
In 24 hours, the story had received 20 million hits, and the donations poured in. Using those and the money he earned through YouTube, Travis was able to take care of Bob and his wife.
And ever since then, we were never back on the street.
And I still get teared up just talking about what you have done, because what? There's not a lot of people going to do this. You know what I'm saying? But you are a man of your word. That's when it comes to me.
Since then, Travis's YouTube channel, along with his other social media platforms, have grown to 9 million subscribers. Countless people have been helped.
I think that the content really resonates with people because deep down, everybody wants to help somebody. Everybody wants to do good. Everybody wants to make the world a better place. And so if they watch my videos in the morning before they start their day, they're like, man, who can I buy lunch for today? Who can I go love on today? Who can I go have a conversation with today that maybe I wouldn't have talked to, but this video planted a seed and makes me want to do good.
Eventually, Travis turned his passion into a ministry he calls Worth and Purpose. He and Amber live simply, pouring the majority of their earnings and all of the donations into continuing the mission. They encourage others to reach out to those in need, because even a little bit of kindness with a good dose of God's love goes a long way.
There's no way that I can explain it other than God just breathing on my obedience and the ministry itself. Like going from 0 to 9 million followers and billions of views in less than 2 years, it's impossible. And it's my responsibility as part of my ministry to spread the love of God through the language of the world. The language of the world today is social media. So I'm going to use that to try and spread the gospel, try and connect kindness to the name of Jesus, and represent him the best I can.
Time now for your Monday Motivation. Today I leave you with this thought as we begin another week together. God is good, he is still God, and he stands ready to guide you. Seek him first and foremost, and then watch everything else fall or fall into place. With that word, make today a marvelous Monday, and be sure to have yourself a wonderful rest of the week. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News channel at any time or online. That is cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. We'll see you back here tomorrow.